Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. It happened right after I fainted due to low blood sugar. Sophie, the student I had been financially supporting for a long time, blocked my number. Concerned, I went to check on her later that day, but her parents met me with anger. "You donated a little bone marrow and now you're this weak," her mother demanded. "Did you faint just to make us feel guilty or get something from us? I've never seen someone so delicate. Do you think you're royalty? Just go away and don't bother us with your bad luck." I was holding a new report that showed Sophie was at high risk of her leukemia returning. Without saying anything, I crumpled the paper and threw it into a nearby trash can. As expected, Sophie collapsed again shortly after that incident. This time her parents were desperate, kneeling and begging me. "Please, Clara, just end your pregnancy," her father pleaded. "You can always have another child, but Sophie is our only one." Earlier that day, after getting some glucose treatment for my fainting spell, I had received Sophie's latest blood test results. The numbers for her white blood cells, macrophages, and platelets were abnormal, and there were changes in cell shapes. Every line on the report worried me deeply. They were signs that her leukemia might be returning. I was about to head to her room when I got a text message from Sophie's dad. "We're leaving the hospital now. Don't contact us again." Before I could even process it or reply properly, I saw the red exclamation mark indicating I'd been blocked. Something felt wrong, so I hurried to the hospital's discharge counter. From a distance, I saw Sophie's parents arguing loudly with a nurse. "We're leaving today and you need to refund today's hospital fees right now," Sophie's dad yelled. "Who do you think you are, just an employee? How dare you talk back? Did you sleep your way into this job?" The nurse, clearly upset and red-eyed from the unfair accusation, raised her phone, probably to call security. But Sophie's dad aggressively banged on the counter glass, trying to grab her arm. A small crowd of patients and their families had gathered, watching the scene unfold. I rushed over and pulled him away. "Calm down, please. This is a hospital. Talk to me about what's wrong." I hadn't expected Sophie's parents to react as if I were contagious. "What are you doing?" the mother shrieked, jumping back. "I didn't touch you. Don't try to blame us if something happens to you." Confused but thinking about Sophie's health, I held up the crumpled report I'd retrieved. "Look at this report. Several of her levels are off. I suspect." Before I could explain about the potential relapse, Sophie's mom pushed the report out of my hand as if it carried a disease. "What is this? Your health problems are your own business. We aren't blaming you for giving her faulty marrow, so your fainting has nothing to do with us." She pulled her husband away. "Forget it. Let's not waste time trying to get the refund. She probably doesn't have long anyway." My heart felt cold. Did they actually think I had leukemia? Mia and I were worried they'd think I was trying to get money from them because of it. Sophie was the student I donated bone marrow to half a year ago after she was diagnosed. Her parents had pleaded with me for help then. Seeing their tears reminded me of my own parents, who had died in a car accident years ago, so I had agreed to the transplant. The surgery itself was successful. Afterward, they claimed Sophie was still weak and needed a long hospital stay. She was in a VIP room that cost $1,200 a day, plus another $200 daily for special services and meals prepared by my personal nanny. Since my family owns the hospital, the cost wasn't an issue for me, so I covered everything. But just today, the doctor had told me Sophie's condition looked serious, with a high chance of relapse, and advised me to be prepared financially. Worrying about it all morning, skipping breakfast, and then falling down some stairs had caused me to faint from low blood sugar. Wait a minute. It clicked. I couldn't help but confront them. "You call me your benefactor? Just yesterday you told me how much Sophie liked the suit my nanny made. Now you're acting like you don't even know me." Suddenly, I felt a hard shove from behind and nearly fell. It was Sophie. Her face was pale and she glared at me. "Don't pretend. We heard the doctor calling this morning about your abnormal test results and how you fainted. You didn't tell us because you wanted to blame us later, didn't you? I'm fully recovered now and have a great future. I won't let you ruin it." I stood there silently for a moment. I hadn't even mentioned my issue was just hypoglycemia. Sophie's mom pointed her finger at me and started shouting, "Donating marrow made you this weak. Your illness isn't our fault. It's your own doing. I've never seen such a pampered person acting like a princess. Just go die quickly and stop dragging us down. Sophie's relapse report was still quietly folded in my pocket. I silently crumpled it again and tossed it in the trash bin as I walked away. Fine, let these ungrateful people face the consequences themselves. With the support I provided, caregivers and special meals, Sophie's family had been living quite comfortably. Now that I was cutting off the financial help, I wondered how they would manage. Just then my fiancé Mark arrived to pick me up. He took me straight to Hermes to look at new handbags. Seeing I was upset about what had happened, he bought me 3 of them to cheer me up. Don't worry about it, Clara, Mark said gently, ruffling my hair as he carried the shopping bags. The money you gave them over the months doesn't even add up to the price of one of these bags. It's not worth stressing over. There's a new Japanese restaurant I know you'll enjoy. They have fresh sashimi and I booked us a table. Let's go eat. The thought of good food immediately lifted my spirits, and the earlier confrontation faded from my mind. I walked into the restaurant with Mark, ready for a nice meal. But as we started eating, I saw 3 familiar figures near. By making me freeze, it was Sophie and her parents. They hadn't noticed us sitting close by. They were ordering food. Wow, look at all this raw food, Sophie's dad commented. Seems they really believe Sophie is completely cured. Why does Clara always act so superior? Sophie complained. If she really saw me like a sister, she should be the one cooking for me when I want something, not telling me to ask the maid. Does she think I'm just hired help? I've been annoyed with her for a while. She shows off her jewelry and bags, but honestly, they'd look better on me. Sophie ate the sushi quickly, even though the wasabi clearly made her eyes water. Mom and Dad, you were smart to get Jane to donate her marrow to me. Now I have her good fortune, and she's the one who's probably doomed. Mark calmly finished pouring sauce for me, then turned slightly away from their table and said coldly, in a place like this you wouldn't expect to hear such unpleasant noise. It's quite sickening. Sophie was startled. When she saw Mark's handsome face, her ears turned red. She blinked, tears forming in her eyes. Hey there, handsome. Who are you talking about? Would you mind telling me your name? Sophie is a few years younger than me and has always appeared frail, with large innocent-looking eyes that tend to make people want to protect her. That's partly why, back when I was in college, I chose to sponsor her out of all the students needing help. But Mark, having grown up around all sorts of people due to his parents' business dealings, our relationship started as a business arrangement and wasn't easily swayed by appearances. He'd encountered girls like Sophie before. He just sneered slightly. I'm Clara's fiancé. If you have a problem, you can talk to me. Sophie seemed intimidated, but her protective mother jumped in. You probably haven't heard. Clara has been diagnosed with leukemia. The doctor says she doesn't have long. You should leave her before you catch her bad luck. Clara might seem successful, but her parents are gone, and she'll be gone soon too, with no one to inherit anything. Why stay with someone so unlucky? Mark's fingers clenched tightly, his knuckles turning white. I knew he could be quite ruthless in business, so I quickly placed my hand over his fist to calm him down. I leaned in and whispered, Sophie probably has less than 6 months if she's relapsing. Let's just observe this situation. Mark managed a tight, unnerving smile. Well, thank you for the information, he said to Sophie's mother. Sophie's dad, misinterpreting Mark's smile as agreement, shamelessly continued. There's something else you should know. Clara donated bone marrow to our Sophie 6 months ago. Now Sophie carries Clara's legacy in a way. When Clara passes, her fortune should naturally go to Sophie. As Clara's fiancé, you'll need to take care of Sophie in the future. He spoke as if Mark was already his future son-in-law. Why bring her out to eat such expensive food? Back in our village, people don't do that when they're dying. They were advising my fiancé, Sue, to leave me right in front of me, acting as if they were doing him a favor. I was speechless, stunned by their lack of shame. Anger started to build inside me. Your logic is ridiculous. Just because someone is ill doesn't mean they should give up immediately. Why not seek treatment? Of course not, Sophie's mom retorted defensively at the mention of cost. Those treatments are incredibly expensive and the success rate is low. Luck Sophie's getting a match is rare. Don't waste resources. It's better to die early and hope for a better next life. You've enjoyed enough in this lifetime. Clara Sophie is different. She studied dance when she was young and is meant to be a star. She'll need a lot of money. If I were you, I'd focus on doing good deeds now to earn merit for the afterlife. After you're gone, we won't forget you. We'll burn paper offerings for you regularly. Mark chuckled softly, then stood up. Waitstaff, he called out. Please put the bill for that table over there on my account. Also, since the young lady loves sushi, bring them an extra-large platter of sashimi, please. It's all on me. He looked directly at Sophie, winked deliberately, and added, Since you've been unwell and confined, sister, enjoy as much as you can. It's my treat. Sophie, already somewhat charmed, was clearly smitten. Mark then placed a black VIP card on their table. This card has a balance in the six figures at this restaurant chain. Enjoy. Sophie's dad couldn't hide his excitement and quickly pocketed the card. What they didn't seem to grasp was that eating raw, uncooked food is extremely risky for someone whose immune system might be compromised, like a leukemia patient potentially facing a relapse. From that night on, Sophie somehow got Mark's secondary phone number and started sending him frequent messages. Mark, I looked you up online. You're so impressive with all your companies. I don't know how to repay your kindness. I went back to that restaurant you treated us to. Still delicious. That was really strong. I miss you. Why haven't you been around? I think about when we first met. Is Clara keeping you away? I really dislike that woman. She didn't know that Mark rarely used that particular phone. It mostly sat ignored in a drawer. Meanwhile, Sophie's parents kept messaging me, demanding I hand over assets they claimed were rightfully Sophie's now. They mentioned hearing the entertainment industry was hard to break into and expected me to fund Sophie's training to become an internet celebrity. I could only laugh inwardly. I replied, Didn't you say she'd been dancing since she was a child? Why would she need more lessons now? They responded confidently, Yes, Sophie took some dance in elementary school music class, and everyone said she had natural talent. If it weren't for this illness, she'd already be famous. Stop stalling and just give us 500,000 yuan to start. You're dying soon anyway. Why not do some good? People like you are heading straight for trouble in the afterlife. When I ignored these messages, Sophie's dad resorted to direct threats. If your employees find out their boss is about to die, how long do you think they'll stick around? Believe me, I can expose your situation online. Mark eventually took my phone, blocked Sophie's dad, and then texted Sophie a number from his secondary phone. Here's the contact for a dance instructor I've found. Sophie was overjoyed. She sent Mark a flood of messages, becoming bolder until she directly asked him to be with her. I can't do that, Mark replied coolly, a slight smirk in his voice. I wouldn't betray someone like that. Sophie didn't seem to catch his sarcastic tone. She replied earnestly, Mark, I know you're making sacrifices for my sake, trying to avoid gossip. Don't worry. Once she's gone, I'll find you. My mom says after Clara dies, I'll inherit everything because I have her bone marrow. I'll take that dance class tonight. Our happy life together is just around the corner. Mark's expression darkened. He threw the secondary phone into the trash can and went to wash his hands without a word. Meanwhile, I sat eating cherries and blueberries, finding the whole situation absurdly funny. I even felt like getting some barbecue and beer later. Sophie, your choices are certainly leading you down a difficult path. Some time passed. Mark took me home to meet his family and finalize our wedding plans. He had arranged everything for the ceremony, and we officially registered our marriage, concluding our 6-year relationship. Mark wanted a large wedding, but my business schedule made planning difficult. Meanwhile, Sophie's parents kept trying unsuccessfully to contact me, still hoping to get access to my supposed inheritance or somehow marry Sophie off to Mark for financial security. Their expensive lifestyle meant they couldn't easily return to their previous modest means. One day, I was scrolling through financial news when a local headline caught my attention. CEO of White Group diagnosed with leukemia. Nearing end. Shocked, I clicked on it, only to find myself the subject of the story, featured alongside negative headlines accusing me of stealing boyfriends, pretending to be charitable, and mistreating Sophie's family. In accompanying videos, Sophie appeared before cameras, tearfully describing how I had supposedly exploited her family under the guise of charity, treated them like servants, and somehow caused her to fall ill with leukemia herself. According to her fabricated story, I had only reluctantly donated bone marrow out of fear of exposure while simultaneously stealing her boyfriend, Mark. Now supposedly riddled with leukemia myself, I was apparently set on destroying her family, forcing them to go public with their grievances. My family is poor, Sophie sobbed on camera. I've danced since I was young, hoping to become a professional dancer with Clara's help, but I never imagined. She trailed off looking haunted. The internet reacted strongly. Comments flooded in. She's rich and beautiful. Why act like this? Heartless leukemia must be karma. Picking on the poor is disgusting. News feeds are filled with messages of support for Sophie, encouraging her dance dreams. My business competitors naturally took the opportunity to amplify the negative story, making it impossible to ignore. My company's phones rang constantly with partners expressing concern about my health. I immediately had our legal team send cease and desist letters to platforms spreading false information and paid to have the negative stories suppressed. Then I contacted the police to report the slander. At the police station, Sophie's family showed no signs of worry. They looked particularly dressed up, likely having been paid by one of my business rivals. Sophie's mom proudly wore a new designer shawl, boasting that Sophie was already being scouted by talent agents. Sophie, however, seemed distracted, constantly scanning the room, presumably looking for Mark. You do realize that spreading false information is illegal, right? I asked them coldly. You seem to have conveniently forgotten who begged me for help, who praised me as their savior just months ago. Now you're attacking the person who helped you. Aren't you afraid of consequences? What do we have to fear? Sophie's mom taunted back, clearly enjoying trying to provoke me. You're living on borrowed time anyway. You might just collapse right here and need an ambulance. Look at you, always working, never resting. Your days are numbered while Sophie's life is just beginning. What's the point of holding on to all that money? Let me tell you, as a woman, the most important thing is continuing the family line. Look at you, no children. It's good you have Sophie. Otherwise, when you're gone, there'd be no one left to even remember you properly. Wait, hold on. Sophie interrupted, suddenly clutching her phone tightly. Her heavy makeup couldn't quite hide the unhealthy pallor of her face. Where's Mark? Why hasn't he come yet? He hasn't replied to my messages in so long. I've been dreaming about him, waiting every single day for his reply. Is it you, Clara? Did you make him stop talking to me? She lunged towards me, but a police officer nearby quickly intervened. Just then, a clear voice came from the doorway. I just finished parking after my meeting. Thanks for handling this unpleasant family on your own, sweetheart. Mark walked in confidently, hugged me, and then naturally placed a protective hand on my stomach with obvious tenderness. Let's not stress our baby, sweetheart. Baby? Sophie looked completely shaken. She swayed on her feet for a moment before collapsing onto the floor. Her parents panicked immediately, calling for an ambulance to take Sophie back to the hospital. That afternoon, Sophie was officially diagnosed with a recurrence of leukemia. Her parents were devastated. They frantically grabbed the doctor, demanding answers. What? Sophie's leukemia is back? Are you sure? Isn't Clara the one who's sick? The doctor looked at them as if they were delusional. The report is right here. Her condition has been relapsing for some time now. Haven't you noticed anything unusual about your daughter's health? Sophie's mom staggered back against the wall, muttering, For a while now. As her mother, how could I have missed it? But Sophie said she was just dieting to stay thin. Our daughter has been relapsing, Sophie's dad repeated in disbelief, pulling at his hair and shouting that it couldn't be real, that he should be the one who was sick. Meanwhile, I stood off to the side, calmly eating a lollipop. Sorry, I said with a small, perhaps unkind smile. I just fainted from low blood sugar. My health records are perfectly clear. You seem to have gotten your facts mixed up. This sent Sophie's dad over the edge. You and your husband did this deliberately, he accused. He gave Sophie those passes to sushi restaurants and arranged those late-night dance classes just to make her condition worse. Mark dropped any remaining pretense of civility with them. People as greedy as you often bring about their own misfortune, he told them plainly. All those ill wishes you directed at Clara seem to have reflected onto your own daughter. He then gently guided me away, placing a hand protectively on my stomach, again acting as if I were heavily pregnant, though I had only recently found out myself. Let's go, sweetheart. We should stay away from such negative influences. Sophie's family was defeated. The online rumors against me quickly disappeared, refuted by concrete medical evidence. The slander they had spread now backfired completely. Angry internet users, realizing they'd been manipulated, turned on them fiercely. This is like that old story of the farmer and the snake. Sophie's family is monstrous, others commented. Riley said that if they had a wealthy relative, they'd be grateful, not try to steal their fiancé and money. Somehow, Sophie's hospital address was leaked online, and angry people started showing up to confront the family. Scared by the backlash, her parents eventually transferred her to a hospital back in their hometown. Now facing the reality of Sophie's dire condition, they didn't dare confront me directly anymore. Instead, they started messaging me repeatedly from temporary accounts. Clara, please help us just this once. You used to love Sophie like a sister. We know we were wrong. You can't just stand by and watch her die. We've settled the legal matters and tried to make amends. The ICU costs are so high. We just can't afford it. Please help us get through this. I blocked them without a second thought. It was probably good that I saw the messages first. If Mark had seen them, his reaction might have been much harsher. The next time I encountered them was after closing a successful business deal. Mark and I were planning a celebratory trip abroad. As I was leaving my office building about to call Mark, Sophie's dad appeared out of nowhere, looking disheveled. He suddenly dropped to his knees in front of me, begging loudly, "Please, Claire, terminate your pregnancy. You can have another child later, but we only have Sophie." The crowd of people leaving work gathered around, watching curiously. Sophie's father was clearly trying to create a public scene, hoping social pressure would force my hand. "Clara, you matched with Sophie before. You saved her once. Why not save her again? She was conscious earlier, calling for her sister, asking for your help. And where were you? Ignoring our messages? You know our situation. We have no income. We're deep in debt trying to save Sophie. I have no choice but to beg like this." He started crying loudly, appealing to the onlookers. "Most of you are parents. You have children. You understand my Sophie is so young. I can't just let her go." He continued sobbing. "Today, as a father, I am kneeling in public for my daughter." However, he misjudged the situation. This wasn't his small hometown. It was a large city where people are generally more pragmatic and less easily swayed by emotional displays. His performance didn't garner sympathy. Instead, it drew disapproval. "Seriously, your daughter's life is the only one that matters? What about Clara's unborn child? How arrogant," someone commented. "Helping you once was a kindness, not an obligation. How dare you make demands?" Another added. "I've never seen someone so shameless, using emotional blackmail like this. If you need money, get a job. You look perfectly capable of working," someone else pointed out. Then someone in the crowd recognized him. "Isn't this the guy from online, the one famous for being ungrateful? Clara helped his family for years, saved his daughter's life, and he turned around and slandered her publicly. Only a fool would help him now. Kneel all you want. You deserve it." Sophie's dad stayed kneeling, his head bowed, face flushed red, veins bulging on his neck in anger. Just then he started reaching into his coat pocket. At that exact moment, Mark rushed over. "Honey," I called, "but you didn't answer. You worried me, so I drove over as fast as I could. Almost ran a red light." He gently took my hand, rubbing it. "Look at your face. You must be cold. Let's get you back in the warm car." I let Mark lead me to the car. Before getting in, I glanced back instinctively at Sophie's dad. He remained kneeling, silent like a statue, his dark eyes fixed on me. Later that night, Mark had to leave for an unexpected meeting. He made sure I was comfortable at home and told me to rest, saying he'd be back as soon as possible. Lying in bed, the sounds of insects rustling in the garden outside made me feel unusually anxious. It was late, the time when social media feeds often push late-night food videos or unsettling crime stories. I couldn't fall asleep, tossing and turning. I decided to go downstairs for some water, trying to distract myself by thinking about our upcoming trip. which filled me with a pleasant sense of anticipation. Suddenly, there was a knock at the front door, sharp and clear in the quiet house. "Hello, food delivery." Here came a strange, artificial-sounding female voice. "I'm in a hurry. Please open the door." Food delivery. We had already eaten dinner, and Mark wouldn't order unhealthy takeout late at night. It was as if the person outside sensed my hesitation. "It's a bouquet, maybe a gift from someone. Hurry up and take it." "Okay, just leave it at the door." "I'll get it in a minute," I called back. I pressed my ear against the door, listening intently. Only when I heard footsteps retreating did I move. I checked the peephole. It was dark, confirming the person had left the immediate vicinity. I cautiously opened the door. A mistake. It only opened a few inches before stopping. Something was blocking it from the outside. Someone was hiding behind the door frame. Before I could react, a sharp knife blade was wedged into the gap, trying to pry the door open further. Sophie's dad's angry face appeared in the opening. "Clara, why should my daughter be lying sick and dying while you live comfortably in this big house? You and that fiancé of yours ruined her. If you don't agree to help save Sophie right now, I'll kill you and take you with her." He meant it, thrusting the knife further into the door frame, clearly trying to frighten me. His aggressive actions initially scared me, but then I stopped struggling against the door. I stepped back further into the house. Sophie's dad looked surprised when he realized the door was secured by a heavy-duty safety chain. No matter how hard he pushed and pried with the knife, he couldn't force it open any wider. "You!" he exclaimed just before police officers, alerted by security systems Mark had installed, subdued him from behind. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and managed a small, shaky clap. The pepper spray Mark had given me was in my hand. "Ready? You thought I wouldn't recognize your voice even with that cheap voice changer?" I scoffed, my business instincts kicking back in. "Please, I've navigated much trickier situations than this. The only reason I ever helped you," I thought silently, "was because your initial pleas reminded me of my own lost parents." He was arrested for attempted breaking and entering an assault with a deadly weapon, which, combined with his previous slander, meant he would face serious legal consequences. Seeing Sophie again was startling. Her skin seemed loose on her bones, her body gaunt and frail. She was no longer in the comfortable private room I had once arranged but in a cramped, somewhat dirty four-person ward. The other patients in the room looked weak and seemed largely unattended. Stains marked the walls. Her mother sat on a small stool beside the bed, trying to spoon-feed her some broth. "This tastes terrible. Can't you cook anything right?" Sophie's illness had clearly worsened her temper. She cursed at her mother between weak breaths. "Useless. You should have died instead. Smoking and drinking while you were pregnant with me. I'm sick because of you. You call yourselves parents? Being your daughter is the worst luck I've ever had." She struggled to sit up in anger and slapped the bowl fell out of her mother's hands. It shattered on the floor. Her mother cried out as hot soup splashed onto her hands. "Sweetie, I was foolish back then," her mom mumbled, tears welling up. "Your dad and I only cared about having fun. But we regretted it later. Truly, we're trying to make it up to you now." "Make it up?" Sophie sneered. "I was living well in that nice hospital room. It's your fault we had to leave. You were so afraid Clara would make a claim. You listened to gossip but didn't check anything. Whose stupid idea was that? I really drew the short straw being born to you. Not only am I sick, but you've completely ruined any future I might have had. I would have been better off if I were actually Clara's sister, living in luxury. Maybe I would have lived longer too. I hate you both." Sophie became increasingly agitated, tears streaming down her hollow cheeks, but they seemed like tears of resentment, not sadness. Fueled by misplaced anger, she started grabbing whatever was within reach, a cup, a tissue box, and throwing them weakly at her mother. Her mom raised her arms to protect herself but still ended up with a bleeding cut on her head, crying softly on the floor. Ahem. I cleared my throat, quietly interrupting the scene. "Cease." Sophie looked towards me, a sudden flicker of hope in her eyes. She tried weakly to get out of bed. "Clara, you came to rescue me, right? You're here to take me away from this horrible place, aren't you? I really can't stand it here anymore. This place is disgusting." A faint, unpleasant odor emanated from her bed. mingling with the general smell of sickness and neglect in the room, making me feel nauseous. I suddenly raised a handkerchief to cover my nose. Sister, I repeated softly. Now there's a word I haven't heard you use in a long time. It seems you only called me that when I was sending you money or when I was donating my bone marrow to save your life. Back then, you said you looked up to me, that you wanted to be someone who helped others too. Is this how that turned out? I let out a cold, humorless laugh. I only came today to see the result of your family's actions firsthand. You and your parents are the most selfish, hypocritical, and ungrateful people I have ever encountered. You even reached the point where you wanted me to sacrifice my own unborn child to save you. I sighed. Do you really think you deserve that, Sophie? Who do you think you are? Sophie stared at me, the hopeful light in her eyes slowly extinguishing. She glanced towards the window at the bare tree branches outside. Her lips moved slightly. And Mark, does he know how I am now? She finally asked, clinging to a last shred of delusion. I shook my head, a bitter smile touching my lips. Mark's methods can be quite subtle. Everything he did, the sushi, the late-night dance lessons, was calculated to worsen your condition and hasten this outcome. Sophie, you chose to believe a handsome stranger over me, the person who actually saved your life once. I have to say that was incredibly foolish. Her frail. My body trembled violently like a dry leaf in the wind. I slowly sank back onto the thin mattress. Sophie's mom, holding her bleeding forehead, tried to reach out towards me, perhaps to plead again, but she was stopped by the bodyguards Mark had insisted accompany me, who stood impassively at the door. I turned and walked out of the ward without looking back. Outside, the spring weather was pleasant, the sun shining gently. Everything that had happened over the past months felt distant, almost like a bad dream. Ahead of me, my own future felt clear and promising.